So, hello all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us at aMS Southeast Asia 2021. Thank you for all of our sponsors to make this happen. And thank you all the attendees to joining us today. So, the oh, okay. Before we start the session, join all of these aMS sessions, attend all of those quiz, and stand a chance to win some cool prizes. Okay, so attend all the sessions thoroughly, and again go for all those quizzes. Okay, so okay, again, yeah, join as many sessions as you can, so that there are many hints being shared with you during this session, so that will help you to get to the correct answer and win the quiz. Okay, so with that, let's start with our discussion for the session around universal actions for adaptive cards on Microsoft Teams. I don't know how much complex or simple it sounds, but simply like we all are using Microsoft Teams, we all are using adaptive cards. And again, adaptive cards are very much simple JSON based format, and then we can just able to send it out onto the Microsoft Teams channel to share the information, present the information, and then we can take some more actions from there. But again, adaptive card is also evolving, and again, we do have some kind of an challenges with adaptive cards, but we will see like how we can mm, come over all of those challenges with something called as universal actions for adaptive cards. So I hope that sounds interesting. So before we start the session, quick introduction. My name is Nanddeep Nachan, and I'm from Pune, India. I'm Microsoft MVP for Office Apps and Services, as well as Microsoft Certified Trainer, author of a couple of books on SharePoint framework as well as SharePoint Hybrid with SharePoint 2019. And on to the right hand side, here are a few of the social handles to get in touch with me. So, for example, if you have any queries related to this or anything other you want to discuss, please feel free to connect with me. And with me today is Smita.
Hello all, myself Smita Nachan and I am from Pune, India. Greetings from India. I'm a Microsoft MVP and MCT author, and these are some of my handles by which you can get in touch with me. So now let's see for the adaptive cards. So if you are not familiar with the adaptive cards, let's just start our discussion with the basics of some adaptive cards. So adaptive cards are platform agnostic snippets of UI which are authored in JSON format. So adaptive cards and an open card exchange format enabling the developers to exchange the UI content in a common and a consistent way. So adaptive cards are a combination of a content such as text and graphics and actions that can be performed by a user. So adaptive cards easily adapt to the look and feel of the application where they are hosted. So as you can see on the slides, the adaptive cards are being used in various applications including Microsoft Teams, My Analytics, Office applications. Just a moment, it's actually got hang. Yeah. So they are available including Microsoft Teams, My Analytics, and Office applications. So, for example, Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, and a SharePoint. And despite being hosted in a different application, adaptive cards adapt to the look and feel of that application and give the feeling of application developed on that platform natively. So at the same time, the adaptive card provides rich interaction capabilities. Adaptive cards are cross-app. That means an adaptive card can be developed once and can be used in a multiple application. So this is excellent from the developers or rather everyone's point of view. But this comes with its own challenges as well. So now let's see why these universal cards.
Oops. It looks like our speaker is having problem with his line.
Hello,
Hello. Hi.
can you hear me? Yes,
Yes.
let me give him my connection. Just a moment.
All right. Sure. No problem.
All right. Seems to be some issue with my PC. Let me start sharing from here. Sorry for that. Okay. Okay, so now that we will see like what are those challenges that we had with the adaptive cards. Okay, so it's like we used to send those adaptive cards over Microsoft Teams, but probably even here you can see like whenever we send those adaptive cards onto the Microsoft Teams, those are just kind of an one thing like we can just take action, but they don't get chance to refresh themselves. So what happens with that is, let's say, for example, I'm just trying to log into my machine where we have all of those adaptive cards open. So this is our Microsoft Teams team, and then what we will do is we will just try to send one adaptive card to this using just a simple Power Automate flow. So here we have this Power Automate flow, which is set to manually trigger. And then from here, we will be able to post any of the adaptive card to a Teams channel, and then again just wait for the response. So this is, as we discussed, a JSON based format. So here we can see that schema, the type is adaptive card, and then adaptive card has got version. So adaptive card started with version of 1.0, and right now we have version 1.4, which is generally available. In that adaptive card, we can have a body, and in that body, we can have all of the types, including text block, text box, to accept the input to show the information. And again, we have something called as a choices, and in those choices, we are giving some name of the cards. And what we will do now is that we will just send this adaptive card to one of our Microsoft Teams team called as Bursted Minds onto the general channel. And then once this card is posted, everyone from that team will get the card. And then once someone respond to that card, it will send out an email to the person who triggered this adaptive card, and then they will be able to see the response which was submitted by that user. Okay, so a pretty simple one. What we will do is we will just start the testing of it. We will run this one manually as of now, and then let's get this one started. Okay, so let's click the run flow. So once we run this flow, it is manually triggered. It has been triggered now, and then it is going to send us one card onto the Teams channel. So now that you can see that we should have a new card here. So this is the new card, and then it is just asking the user to give some kind of an information. So let's say in this case we go for Lexus, and then we click on submit. So this works well. You can see that the submit button has been grayed out. It is doing something, and then this particular response has been recorded. Okay, so now that this user has selected Lexus, and then that response was went ahead. So now, for example, again, if I go back here and open up my Outlook, so in the Outlook, we should be able to see one email wherein we'll be able to see that this is the new poll response that we have received. Okay, so this is good. Like we were able to send the adaptive card. We got the response which was submitted by this particular user. The response is recorded here. But now that again, if I go back to this channel, you can see that this is the response which was recorded. But from the end user point of view, who has submitted that record, probably this is not the good experience because he had recorded this. So either we should have given that user some kind of a confirmation that okay, we have received your response and we are working on it. But this adaptive card doesn't got any chance to refresh itself and say that information or say that message to the end user. So even for us, it is a bit confusing, like whether that response was recorded or not, or maybe something went wrong. So we are not able to do, or at least the end user is not able to judge anything. But if you see, we were able to get that response, and we are also processing that response. So these are kind of the challenges that we had with the adaptive cards. Even though the response was recorded, it wasn't appealing to the user that it has been done. Probably in that case, what we could have done is we could have deleted this adaptive card from that user. But again, we will have to do some more programmatic way to get this done. So this is one kind of a challenge that we had with adaptive card. And now that we will see how we will be able to get across this challenge using something called as universal actions. Okay, so let's get and talk more about this universal action model.
So we have various host applications which have their own action model. So in a simple words, even though the layout and rendering for adaptive cards was a universal, action handling was not. So if a developer wanted to send the same card to a different places, maybe the Microsoft Teams or an Outlook, then they have to handle the actions differently for each of those hosts. So as we can see on the slide, so on the left side of the slide, we can see that the teams or pods use action.submit, an approach which differs the actual communication model to the underlying channel. And on the right hand side of the slide, we can see that Outlook use action.http to communicate with the backend service explicitly specified in the adaptive card payload. That means although the functionality is same in a different app, we still have to write the specific card for each of those apps and maintain separately. This was an overwork for the developers. So now let's see this new universal action model. So universal actions for adaptive cards brings the bot as the common backend for handling actions and introduce a new action type, action.execute, which works across apps such as Teams and Outlook. So with the universal actions for adaptive cards, you can use action.execute for action handling across the different platforms. So action.execute works across hubs including Teams and Outlook. In addition, an adaptive card can be written as a response for an action.execute trigger invoke request. The image on the slide shows the new universal action model. So you have to please note that the support for universal actions for adaptive cards version 1.4 is only available for the cards sent by the bot. So now let's see new universal action model in action. So you can now send the action card to both Teams and Outlook and keep them in a sync with each other using the underlying bot. So any action taken on either platform is reflected to the other with this built once and deploy anywhere. So universal actions from the adaptive cards model. As you can see on the screen, the same card has been sent on the both Teams and the Outlook. Any action taken on either of the platform will be reflected to the other one. Now let's see user specific views. So today, every user in a team chat or channel sees the exact same view and button actions on the adaptive card. However, in certain scenarios, there is a requirement for the certain users to act differently and have access to different information within the same chat or a channel. So, for example, if you send an incident reporting card in a chat or a channel, only the user who is assigned the incident must see a resolve button. On the other hand, the incident creator must see an edit button and all other users must only be able to view details of that incident. So this is made possible by user specific views that is enabled by the refresh property. So with the introduction of the universal actions model and refresh for adaptive cards, bot developers can now provide user-specific views of adaptive card to the users. So the same adaptive card now refreshed to a user-specific adaptive card.
So now that let's see how we can create this user specific view. So user specific view, that means based on the role which is performed by that particular user in this context should be able to see only the actions available for him or her. So let's say in this case, I am the incident creator. In that case, I will get one form wherein I will be able to create the incident. While I am creating the incident, for others, it will be just a message showing that someone is creating the incident. And then we have this middle window, which one is for incident resolver. So that means he's the one who can take the action onto that incident and go ahead and resolve the incidents. So obviously, he or she should just see this resolve button. Otherwise, this resolve button should not be available for anyone else. And then onto the right hand side, we just have one team member who will just monitor this entire conversation. He or she is not responsible to take any of the action, either edit the incident or maybe resolve the incident. In that case, that user should only get the read only kind of a view. So this is something called as a user specific view. And now that let's see how we will be able to achieve that. So for this, we have something called as a schema, which is a user specific views for the adaptive cards. So as we saw in the first demo, that we have some specific schema to follow for the adaptive cards. So similarly, it is the same schema. So the schema has been defined at this particular URL. The type of this schema is just the adaptive card. This originator property is majorly used for the Outlook, because we need to know like who has sent that adaptive card. Because for example, if we are working within the context of team, at least we should be able to detect that. But when the email will come up, we won't be able to gather that information. So this originator GUID is very much important from that perspective. Then this is the important part that we have here is the version. So all of these user specific views are only supported beginning from the version of version 1.4 of adaptive card. So this is a must have kind of a property. And then we have something called as an refresh. So this refresh has got various other things. And we need to add a refresh clause to the adaptive cards if you want to use the automatic refresh model, or if your scenario requires the user specific views. So that means based on the role, only that particular view should be seen to the user. Then thirdly, that we should use this entire refresh model to allow adaptive cards to update automatically, and then to automatically refresh your cards, define its refresh property. Okay, so this is the refresh property that we have here. And this refresh property embeds an action of type action.execute, which is here. And then it accepts something called as an user IDs, okay, which is an array of the user IDs. So which is specified by as an MRI. So we will see like how we will be able to get those MRI. So what will happen is that to all of the users who are specified in this array, for those users, this particular adaptive card will be refreshed. So let's say, for example, if it is an incident creator or an incident resolver, we are only specifying those two IDs here. So again, if I go back here, this is the incident creator and this is the incident resolver. So only incident creator should have edit or cancel kind of a button here, or the incident resolver should have resolve kind of a button. So we are only specifying those two user IDs here, so that the adaptive card will get a chance to refresh for only the users who are specified in this array. And then we will be able to show something like this onto our adaptive cards. But for the other users, including other team members, we are not mentioning them. So for them, the adaptive card will not be refreshed, and they will be able to just see the view only mode of this. Okay. Then user IDs. Let's talk more about this user IDs. So user IDs is just an array of MRIs, which is a part of the refresh property in the adaptive cards. So user ID property is added because channels in team can include a large number of members. So if all members are viewing the channel at the same time, unconditional automatic refresh results in many concurrent calls to the bot. And the user IDs property must always be included to identify which users must get automatic refresh with maximum of 60 user MRIs that can be specified here. So now that let's see how this all happens from the user's point of view based on their roles of requester, approvers, or a member. Again, just going into the coding perspective, let's say, for example, if you want to get those user MRIs, in that case, this is the code through which you will be able to get all those user MRIs. So simply that we are storing one array wherein we will be able to store all those members, and then we are just getting the teams info.get page member async, so that we'll be able to get to the page member information. And then what we can do is we can just get the current page dot members, and which will return as all of the members who are part of that particular team's channel, and then we will be able to store that information into our array. So and again, one more thing is like whenever we get to those members dot aad object id means Azure AD object id is the object id of that MRI. So this is not actually a GUID, but a unique identifier through which we'll be able to identify each of the user onto the Teams channel. Okay, so now that let's see like how that specific scenario looks like. Even we do have animation here which will give you the entire picture how this works. So firstly, that to send the adaptive cards, refresh user specific views and invoke request to the bot. So this is how it works. So firstly, whenever this user creates a new incident, now that you can see that this user is creating a new incident, the bot sends the adaptive card or the common card with incident details onto the Teams conversation like this way. And then this user can fill out all the information. While this user is filling out the information, the other users will only able to see that someone is raising the incident, nothing else. We don't still have those incident details in picture. So while this user is sending out or filling out all those details, this is the adaptive card which will be seen to all of the other users. So now this card automatically refreshes to the user specific view for Nanddeep and Debra, who are the incident creator and resolver, because their user MRIs are added into the user ID property of the refresh card on the adaptive card JSON. And this card remains the same for the other users in the conversation. So for the other users, this card will remain the same, but only for these two users it will be refreshed. So for Nanddeep, who is the incident creator, automatic refresh triggers adaptive card / action invoke request to the bot. The bot can return the incident creator card with the cancel button as a response to that invoke, which we can see here. And similarly, for this user who is the incident resolver, Debra, automatic refresh triggers another adaptive card / action invoke request to the bot, and the bot can return incident owner card with a resolve kind of an button as a response to this invoke request. So this is how it happens. For example, it is a bit confusing. We will still look into the demo, and it will be very much clear. But before that, let's see like how this all these things happen. Okay. So firstly, that we need to, for example, we want to build all these things. Then we should get started with these universal actions for adaptive cards in Microsoft Teams. And let's say, for example, if you already have built any of your bots previously, these are the steps that we should follow to get adapted to the universal actions for adaptive cards. So first thing is that we should replace all of the instances of action.submit, which we were used in the adaptive cards for the version 1.0 or 1.1 or 2 or 1.3. All of those instances of action.submit should be replaced with action.execute, so that we will follow that universal actions for both Microsoft Teams as well as Microsoft Outlook. And then as we discussed, we should add the refresh model to the adaptive card if required, because if you want to refresh the user specific views, then only consider adding the refresh model. Otherwise, unnecessary adding the refresh model could add potential issues with the card performance. And then again, once you add the refresh model, we should handle this adaptive card / action invoke request in your bot. And then once we handle this particular request, we will see in the demo like how we can handle this, and then how we will be able to send only those user specific information to all of your users. And then again, we can respond back with the card using this create invoke response from the bot, so that every specific user will get his or her own view to deal with. All right, so with that, let's see like what are those up to date cards.
So we can now provide the latest information to the users on adaptive cards by including a combination of refresh and message edits in Teams. Also, we can update the user-specific views dynamically to its latest state as and when there is a change on our service. So, for example, a user can create an approval request in a Teams conversation. So, for example, Nanddeep creates an approval request and assign it to the Debra. So, there are some of the uh, parts to create the approval request. So let's see. So user specific views can be applied using the refresh property of the adaptive cards. So using user specific views, one can show a card with approve or reject buttons to a set of users and show a card without these buttons to other users. To keep the card state always updated, Teams message edit mechanism can be used. So for example, for every approval, bot can trigger a message edit to all the users. So this bot message edit triggers an adaptive card action invoke request to all automatic refreshed users to which the bot can respond with the updated user specific card. So to raise an incident over here, Nanddeep raises an incident request in a Teams conversations and assign it to user Debra. Then the bot sends the approval based card in the conversation. All other users in the conversation see the card sent by the bot. Automatic refresh is triggered for the Debra who now see the user specific card with resolve button as is user MRI is added to the user ID list in the refresh property of that adaptive card. Then the Debra selects the resolve button which is a power with action.execute. The bot gets an adaptive card action invoke request to which it can return an adaptive card in a response. The bot triggers a message edit with an updated card which says Debra has resolved the incident and Debra's user MRI is also removed from the user ID list in a refresh property of this adaptive card JSON.
Okay, so now that we have been talking too much about all of this in a theory, now that let's see how we can build one use case, which is the one which we saw so far in the screenshots of the incident management. Okay, so probably before I walk you through the prerequisites and get started with that, let's have a quick demo of this so that we will understand this better, and then we will go into the prerequisites and show me the code kind of an part. Okay, so right now again back to my developer environment, and then let me just close out the other things which we don't need. So what I will do is this is just one user that we have here. Let me again go back to this incident management. So this is the team that we have set up for emergency response, and then you can see that we have separate channel here created for the incident management. So let me just quickly go here and click the manage team. So from here you can see that at least we just have only 3 members here, and we will use these 3 users to create the incident, resolve the incident, and then just one member who is just watching everything happening. All right. So this is the context that we have. So right now on this browser, I'm logged in with my user, with which we will use for creating the incident. And then let me just open up another user which we have. This user is Debra. So we will use this particular user for resolving the incident. So let me just arrange this side by side so that we'll be able to see that what is the user experience for each of those side by side. And then we have this third user, which is Smita, who will be just monitoring the incident for the closure. Okay, so nothing else, no actions will be required from her, but that's just that she will see everything happening. So just give me one moment. Let me just take each one of them to the incident management team. And yeah, all right, so this is everyone now is at same channel that we see. And then I will just have all of those windows side by side. Okay, this is how it will look. Right. No, this is not the way we want to do it. Just give me one moment. But yeah, probably we can go ahead with this only, not an issue. So what will happen now is that I will use this particular user who is the incident creator. Okay, and then we will have these two windows in a smaller scale. So any of the user who want to raise any kind of an incident, he can mention the bot with @, and then he can get to that bot, and then we can use one keyword called as raise, and then for the service to which we want to raise any kind of an incident, we can mention that name. So this has to be pre-coded into your bot. So we will start this conversation session by mentioning the bot with raise incident for SharePoint. Once you do that, what will happen is that bot will get that. Even you can see that we have a new message window here for the other users. This is not much clear, but okay, let's see how this one goes. So what should happen now is that this particular bot should get triggered, and then this should send one adaptive card onto the channel. Okay, so now that you can see that bot has triggered, it is sending one adaptive card, and probably you will be able to see this clearly for this user, which is Nanddeep, that this particular user has got more information available here, so that he can go ahead and raise the incident. Let me just arrange this side by side, so that we'll be able to see it in a better way. So for the other users, because this one is Smita, yeah, she is just the watcher. She will not perform anything. For her, you can see that she is getting a message that Nanddeep is trying to create one incident. Okay, so this is has been created with the adaptive card. For the others, this will not refresh, and they will just see that someone is raising the incident. Now that I will go ahead and raise the incident, like external sharing not working. Okay, in the description, we can add some descriptions. I will not go into the details, so I will just say a description here. And again, we can select from whom from that particular team we can assign this to. So again, this one has been done with the user MRIs. So you can see that on this particular channel, we have got only two users, Debra and Smita. I can select Debra to whom we want to assign this incident, and then we can select the category, whether it is a functional bug, technical bug, or UI. So I will probably take the category as technical, and then I will just submit. So as I submit, I just want you to watch both these windows. So and again, obviously this window. So once we click on submit, again this entire information will be passed on to the bot, and now that bot has given me with the option of cancel, because I am the one who has created this incident, and now that I get the cancel button here. If you watch the window of Debra, who is our incident resolver, he automatically gets the resolve button here. And then for example, if you watch the window of Smita, who will not perform anything, for her she doesn't get any button either to edit, resolve, or have anything, because she will be just the silent listener or silent watcher of this entire activity. So this is how this adaptive card sends those user specific views for each of those users. So now that all of the information is here, like what is the incident title, description, category, only thing is like based on the role of the user, adaptive card has been refreshed, and then it is only showing those actions for the user. That means for the creator, it is a cancel action or edit action if you want, and then for the resolve one, just the resolve action. So now that let's say this user has resolved the incident, he can go here, click on resolve. Then again, you can see that all the cards have been refreshed now, except the one which was worked on by Smita, and then everyone gets the status as resolved. And now that we don't have any buttons here to take any further action. So what we just quickly saw, like we should be able to create this kind of an experience with something called as an adaptive cards for the universal action model. So now that let's get into the demo and into the code and see how this one looks like. But before I go into the demo or at least into the code part, most of you must be like to know like what are the background things which are needed, or as well as what are the prerequisites which will be needed. So the first prerequisite that we need is this Office 365 tenant, obviously, and we should have the Microsoft Teams installed, and then again we should have an account onto the Microsoft Teams. And one more thing here is that this particular demo has been developed with Visual Studio 2019, supporting the .NET Core SDK version 3.1. But at the same time, even you can develop that using Node.js and TypeScript. And again, for example, before you get it deployed to the production environment, if you want to just locally develop and debug, you can use this ngrok. Okay, so to test out your development locally, you will need this ngrok or any kind of an equivalent tunneling solution. So make sure that you have downloaded and installed the ngrok on your local machine. So ngrok will tunnel all of the requests from the internet to your local computer and terminate the SSL connections from Teams. So once you will run this will create some kind of a subdomain.ngrok.io kind of an URL. So any kind of a free ngrok plan will generate new URL every time you run that, which requires you to update the Azure AD registration and then the app manifest file as well. And for example, if you have a paid account with ngrok, that subdomain will be constant throughout. Okay, so these are all of the prerequisites that we will need. And then let's see like what are the other solution components that we will need. So first thing that we need here is this bot channel registration, but I guess most of you are or should be aware now that bot channel registration have been deprecated just last month. And then we have something new called as Azure bot, through which we will be able to host all of our Azure bot in the Azure. But again, for example, if you already have created the bot channel registrations in the past, they will still continue to work. But as of now, if you go onto the Azure portal, you will not even see the option to create the bot channel registration. So in that case, go ahead for creation of the Azure bot. Okay. The second thing that we will need here is either your Teams or at least the Visual Studio 2019. So we can either have the Visual Studio 2019 with .NET Core SDK 3.1 version, or if you are not a fan of Visual Studio with C# coding, if you want to get it developed onto Node.js using TypeScript kind of a thing, you can go ahead and use your Teams here. And then lastly, we will need this Microsoft Azure web app to host everything, right? So probably let's go into this one by one and see that into the effect. So now that I'm again back to my developer machine, and from here we can just go to this resource group where all of those instances have been created. So here we have at least one Azure bot created, one app service, and that's it. We don't have anything else. So for example, if I just quickly go into this Azure bot, which is kind of a replacement now for the bot channel registration, it is more or like the same that we had got experience with the bot channel registration. So here we also have got that overview from where we'll be able to get all those messaging endpoints and other things. And then again, here we do have got this bot profile, wherein for the end user experience, if you want to change the icon or change the display name, it can be done from here. The major thing here is this configuration. So here we need to specify that messaging endpoint to which your bot will be listening to or getting all of the requests, sending the responses. So here, if in case if you are using ngrok for the local development, you can mention that subdomain here for the ngrok. For example, if you have deployed that to the Azure web app, in that case, you can have the Azure web app URL mentioned here. And then this /API/messages will have to specify, because it is the endpoint on which bot will be listening or reacting to. Then we have this app ID, which will be used inside of our Visual Studio solution to connect to this Azure bot and have the conversation done. Once you click onto the manage, here we have some kind of an security things. So we can specify the security and secrets either by uploading any of the certificate that you have, or if you don't have the certificate, in that case you can create your new client secret from here. Just mention the name or the description when it should expire, and when you will add that new client secret, it will give you one client secret value. So note it down, because once you will navigate away from this page, you will not be able to see that another time. So you will see something like first three character, and then entire everything is masked. So do note that once you will generate that, keep it somewhere, because this one is a secret. You should not expose it again. Make a note that while you are adding it to your solution, don't get this file or this value added into your source control. Otherwise it will be exposed to the entire world. Okay, so with that, again, for example, if I go back, the third and foremost thing that we should do is this channels. So now this one is the Azure bot, and to onto which channel we want to get this bot channel used. So by default, this one will be available onto the web chat, through which we'll be able to maybe surface this onto any of the website. But if you want to go ahead, even go ahead with this Microsoft Teams. So here you should be able to see all of those featured channels or more channels. And here there should be a button for Microsoft Teams. Once you add it, it should appear here. And then whenever your bot will run, keep checking this for the health. So for example, if it is running, or if you have any kind of any issues, it can be monitored from here. So yeah, that was all about this Azure bot, which is a replacement of the bot channel registration. The second thing that we will need is this app service, or web app, wherein we will be hosting all of our code. Again, as I said, you can create this a web app using a .NET version, or for example, if you are developing that onto the Node.js, you can use that Node.js. One more thing here is that, again, probably if you want, you can have those deployment slots created. But before that, we have a major thing here is about these configurations. So once you go onto the configurations, here also we'll have to mention certain details about this bot framework URI, Microsoft App ID, app password that we just have seen, and then you will have to get this one added to your app configuration. Otherwise, your app will not work. Another thing here is that we do have this deployment center. So from where you can decide like how do you want to get your code deployed to this web app. So one good thing is that from here, if you have your source code checked into the Git or Bitbucket or Azure repo, you can add that as a CI/CD kind of an thing, so that you don't have to do the deployment every time by downloading the publishing profile. But if in case you don't prefer this way, you can still go ahead and click onto the manage publishing profile, and it will download the published profile, which you can embed in your Visual Studio, and you will be able to carry out the deployment. All right, so the third thing here is this Visual Studio solution itself, which is doing all of the magic. Okay, so we will let's walk through all of this solution. So this solution has been created with .NET Framework 3.1. So here, this particular class, or yeah, before that, let me just show you the solution, which is a simple one. We just have got one bot here, which is the incident management bot. Then we have few resources here in the form of an adaptive cards, and then we do have this manifest, which should be zipped and uploaded to your Microsoft Teams as an app. So it's simple, pretty simple solution that we have here. Then let's see like how this bot is. So this bot is derived from the class called as an activity handler, and then we have certain private members here, which are mapped to the web app configuration. The major thing here is this on message activity. Okay, so this is the thing that we have even seen into the slides. So here what can happen is that whenever someone mention your bot with raise kind of a thing, we see like what kind of a service that particular person is referring to. For example, if it is Office 365, we just take one image path, and for example, if it is a SharePoint or Teams, we just formulate one image path. And then what we do next is that we get the name of the member who has created that particular incident. So in this case, since this particular user had created the incident, his name will come here in this created by user ID, and then we use this to send that particular information to the bot. And then first thing that will happen is this on invoke activity async, and here we will create the user property to store that into the state, and then what we will do is, okay, before that, what we do here is that we just send out that card as the welcome card or the initial card to our users. So that initial card is nothing but the simple card which should be seen to all of the users. So in this, again, we do have version 1.4 used of the adaptive card, and then we do have this refresh model which we were talking about. And then dynamically we are passing all of the data, like who has created the user ID of that service name and the image path. Okay, and then this is the user ID array in which we can specify the name of the user, and in this time just the created by. And then in the body we just have that someone is raising the incident, is creating the incident, and it should wait there. And this is the version that we have. Once we send out this as the first instance of our adaptive card onto the Teams channel, uh, we come to this particular path, which is this action.verb equal to initial refresh, because in this adaptive card we have specified this initial verb as the initial refresh. So that means we are invoking something from this particular adaptive card. So once we do that, what we do is we just get the current user who is invoking that, and then we get all of the other members. And that particular information we use in our next card, which we use for creating the incidents. So here we have another card for creating the incident. So in this create incident, we also have got one drop down where we populate all of the users to whom we can assign. So this is the drop down that we have in the adaptive card, and the choices for those gets driven from these assignees, which is all of these members that we have. And then we can just use this, any of the method called as maybe this process create incident. And then if I go to the definition of this, from here you can see that we are just formulating that card, which is create incident, and passing all of the information to it. Once we do that, in that case, this particular card will be shown to all of the users, and then it will be available to take the action. Again, in this particular card, which is a create incident .json, you can see that we also have something called as the user arrays, so that this one will be only refreshed for the users who is the creator of the incident, not for the others. Okay, and then again, not necessarily we should have user MRI specified in all the cards, but this is just the example that, for example, if you don't want this card to be refreshed for all of the users, we should not mention that. So next thing what will happen is that only the creator of this particular card has seen this create incident. Then for that particular user, we have a verb of edit or resolve the incident. So again, what happens in this case is we create two more cards. First one is for the canceling the incident, and then second one is for resolving the incident. And based on who created the incident and to whom we want to assign the incident, we only send those two adaptive cards to those specific users. That means what happens in that case, the card which was sent to them earlier, that who someone is creating the incident, now get a chance to refresh, and they now see the cancel and resolve kind of an card. Then again, we go ahead based on the action which is taken by either resolver or creator of the incident for cancel or edit the incident or resolve the incident. We again take that into the consideration, and then refresh the last card for everyone, which shows that this incident has been resolved. So all that action take place in this close incident kind of a method, where we create another adaptive card and just show the information about this particular incident has been closed. And then for that we have this closed incident JSON. If I can go here and I can show you that quickly. So here we have that closed incident. So in this closed incident, you can see that again we don't have any of the MRIs, because this card should not refresh itself again, because this one is the last card which we are sending onto our conversation, and then it will only will be shown at the last. Then again, just one thing to note that here, like for the cancel incident or resolve incident kind of a thing, we just have got refresh, because this cancel incident should be only seen to the resolver or the person who is taking some action onto this. not for the entire users. So just one thing I wanted to make clear to you that even though we have this adaptive card, we should not unnecessarily add these refresh actions, because this refresh action should be only or refresh model should be only used whenever we want to refresh a certain activity for certain set of users. So we can specify what kind of an activity we want to take care of in the refresh, and then we should only specify those user IDs for which this particular refresh should happen. And again, one thing to note that we can at the max specify 60 user IDs, not more than that. Okay, so if you have a huge team, probably we won't be able to do that very effectively, but at least for the smaller scale of teams where we have less than 60 users, we should be able to do that. But again, yeah, for example, even though we have more than those, we can intelligently select like which are the users for which this particular card should be reflected, and then we can only specify those user IDs arrays, so that only for those users that card will be refreshed, but for the others it will be just generic card that someone is creating the incident or the incident has been resolved. Because even though we have let's say limitation of 60 users, there could not be a possibility of 60 approvers or maybe 60 incident creators. So incident creator only once, and then again he can only select one person who can work onto that incident. So at least if we keep this user ID being populated intelligently, we should be able to get across even that limitation. All right. So just wanted to show like how we will be able to create those adaptive cards, and again make use of the actions and all those things. So with that, at least we have seen like or the sample that we have shown you that entirely illustrates the sequential workflow, user specific views, and up-to-date adaptive card bot. So again, this card has been created with the bot framework, and it shows how to create simple incident and resolution using adaptive card 1.4 version. Again, for example, if you are interested to develop similar kind of solutions for your organization, for your teams, then here are a few of the references. We have a good documentation from Microsoft on how to create those universal actions for adaptive cards. Then again, for example, there is a good video onto the YouTube from the Microsoft channel, from the Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Outlook SMEs, on how we can use these universal actions for Microsoft Teams as well as for Outlook. And then again, this was firstly showcased by Microsoft officially onto the build event this year. And even you can watch out that it is a good video again from Jeremy Tech and Rabia Williams. So if you want to go ahead, explore more on this, these are the quick references for you to get started on that. And with that, and for example, if you want to specifically see this particular code and want to explore more about this code that we had written, this code is available under the PNP repository for the under Teams dev sample. So this is a direct URL to that. If you directly go to aka.ms/bot-teams-incident management, you should be able to see that code. And then again, probably let me click that in a while. And then again, for example, if you want to see like how we have developed this code, we have a detailed explanation about the code as well as the deployment part in this article. And with that, thank you very much for having us. Hope you enjoyed the session. Let me check again if the okay, so this is the place where we have the entire documentation available, and this one is under the PNP repository of Teams dev samples. So do explore it out. We have the documentation here. If you are interested to getting this developed, please let us know. And if there are any other queries or other development opportunities, do let us know. All right. With that, thank you very much for having us. And if there are any questions, we can take those. Or here are the social handles for us. So if you want, even you can get in touch with us after the session. Thank you very much, aMS Southeast Asia, to have us here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.